I hope my PPT is visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'll go on the slideshow mode now. Is it moving?
Yes, ma'am. Okay, it's
Okay,
moving.
okay, fine, fine. Um,
Yes, ma.
Greetings of the day to all, and I'm the counselor for today. I'll be counseling your course code MES 005, that is Human Resource Development. And today we will be discussing on the third and fourth unit of Block 1, that is Planning for Human Resources. Unit 3 is Staff Recruitment and Selection, and Unit 4 is Induction, Work Distribution, and Retention. After a brief discussion on the Unit 3, I'll ask my students to please kindly raise up the queries after completing the presentation on Unit 3rd, and then we will forward for the we'll proceed for Unit 4. Unit 3 is staff recruitment and selection. The points which we will be discussing today is recruitment. The second one is selection, and the third is appointment. In recruitment itself, we'll discuss the types of vacancies, the assessment of needs, the sources of recruitment, the process of recruitment, modes of advertising, the content of advertisement. In the selection part, we will be discussing on the four principles that define the new model for smart hiring, the methods for selection, the types of interview, and the personality test. Now, starting with recruitment. Recruitment is the process actually of inviting the likely candidates for the position which we want to fill in the organization. Since we all know that the recruitment and the selection process has become more complex, as we are looking for people with the required skills and attitudes that are suitable for reflecting the school's philosophy. We face various difficulties. On one hand, we are not being able to attract the right type of talent for the position, and on the other, we are dealing with ample number of application for a single post. So these two difficulties are there. Secondly, when we discuss about the types of vacancies, there are two types of vacancies in any kind of organization. One is the permanent vacancy, and the second one is for the temporary appointment. When we are looking forward for a permanent appointment, we must ensure that a perfect person, a right person with the most appropriate skills and competence is appointed. And while we are looking for a temporary appointment, this may or may not be critical. It will often depend on the time period for which we are looking forward for the appointment. But we must ensure that we must try to appoint someone with the appropriate skills and must not leave the vacancy vacant in the organization. Um, when we are discussing on the assessment of needs, we must see that the vacancy of the staff, it offers an opportunity for the organization and especially for the head teacher, that he should reassess the needs. You might be looking for someone who can offer the same combination of skills as desirable as the person who has already left your organization, but you might be looking for another one who has new skills. For example, you might have an vacancy of a mathematics teacher, and for from past few years you have fragmented the work proportions to several number of people in your organization who were really not qualified for that teaching position, but you have delegated the duties to few of the people, When you have a vacancy, and if you find that somebody has left in your organization, you have an opportunity that you can fill that vacancy through the appointment of a mathematics teacher. So it depends on the need assessment. Moreover, as a school head, when we are assessing the needs, we must consult the school management, the school board, and also the members of the staff. And after consulting with the members, we must try to fill the vacancy, the vacant position of our organization. Now, what are the various sources of recruitment? When we are talking uh, about in school, the usual sources of recruitments are, we look forward for the university departments, especially the education departments. We can look forward for the local teacher training colleges, the placement agencies, and also the other schools, because you never know, there might be some teachers who are looking for an opportunity to move on to the locality of yours, and who might be looking forward for joining your institution and with a philosophy just like yours. So these are the various sources of recruitment: the university departments, the local teacher training colleges, the placement agencies, and mostly the other schools also. Now we will discuss the various process of recruitment. I think the foremost step into it is like we are writing the job description in a very brief manner. We have already discussed about this in the previous unit. We must elaborate whatever the roles and responsibilities of a particular job is. So we must give that in writing. Secondly, we must decide on what mode we must advertise for the vacant post. It might be through local newspaper advertisement, it might be for a national level advertisement, it might be in your your school website, it might be through the local agents. So it depends. Secondly, you must decide when you want your new recruits to join. Now, next is you also you need to decide on the proportion of people you want to shortlist. Maybe for a single position you are hiring, you need to shortlist almost 4 or 8%. That depends on the norms and regulations of the school as well as the government concern. Third, next is we must decide on the process of selection, whether we are going for the personality test, whether we are going for the interview procedures, or we are following the both. So you must decide on the process of selection also. Next is we must estimate the time required for the process of selection. You might go for several rounds of shortlisting, so you may require more days. So it depends. You must estimate whether you require a single day, whether you require a week or two. So you must estimate the time required for the process of selection. Next is you must write the job description and whatever you have to give in the advertisements. Next, you have to advertise also for the post. It might be through the various sources, through the various modes. Now we will discuss on the various modes of Advertising. In several countries, we have ministries that have circulars that are issued at regular intervals and in which the vacant positions are advertised. While others, they rely on the public media also for the advertising the vacant post. Sometimes both, the combination of both the approaches are taken together, And in some situation, if there is a critical need, a school may place an advertisement at its own expense also. So, advertisement, they can be posted on bulletin boards of local universities. Like I said, the various sources are the departments of various local universities and the teacher training colleges. You can post the advertisement in the local or the national newspapers, or they can be posted in the classified sections or in the main educational sections of the newspaper. Next, you can also post the advertisement in the internet job sites which are under the education sections. You can post your advertisements also there. But there are several factors which will decide uh, where to place the advertisement, whether in the newspapers, whether in the internet, or between the local or the national dailies. So, what are those factors we will be discussing? The first one is the budget. If you have a budget that you have set aside for the advertisement, it depends on that budget itself. Whether you are going for the national newspapers with advertisement in the main sections, because in the main sections they are more expensive than in the classified sections or in the local dailies. Since advertising in the newspapers are more expensive than advertisements on the internet, so if you have that budget with you, you can go forward for the advertisements in the newspaper sections. Otherwise, if there is small allocation of the budget on advertisement, you can go for the other sources. Next, it's the geographic area from where you want to attract talent. Since the rural areas, they don't have the reach of the national dailies and the internet. So obviously, for if you want to attract the rural talent, you need to go for the local dailies. So it depends on your notion, it depends on your willingness, it depends on your objectives from where you want to attract the talents. And lastly, the quality of talent you want to attract, because whatever space is provided in the advertisement, it's too little, and you need to specify everything in brief: the vision, the mission, the beliefs of the school, and whatever the opportunities you will be providing to the candidate. You need to specify, and you need to specify whatever will be attracting the talent of your own choice. So these are certain factors that actually help in deciding the placement of the advertisements. Now we will discuss the content of advertisement. The content of advertisement contains the first one, the description of the school. You need to mention the mission, the vision, the goals, uh, and secondly, the school's beliefs about people, where it is standing, what the other stakeholders of education believe about that particular school of which you are advertising. You need to give a proper job description. You need to tell the roles and responsibilities of that vacant position. You need to tell them the salary, the other benefits, and the opportunities which the candidate will find in when he will join your institution. And you also need to give the address or a sample application form in the advertisement itself, or the address from where to obtain the form. So these are the various content of the advertisement of a particular position of in an organization. Now we will proceed after the for the recruitment procedure. We need to move forward towards the selection procedure. And what is selection? Selection is actually finding the right people with the right experience and with the right mindset in the right place. So we need to build a great organization, but without good people in our organization, we cannot fulfill this dream. So basically, our problem as the school head is to identify how to identify good people. You know, when we see them or when we meet them, how to identify the good people. uh, so for that, a selection is required. So selection is just a process of finding the good people, the right people, with right experiences and with the right mindset in the right position. So, when we discuss about the four principles that define the new model for smart hiring, when we will look forward for the smart selection procedure, we should follow these certain principles. The first one is we should always remember that what you know changes, who you are doesn't. Actually, what we make a mistake in selecting a person is we go forward for looking forward for the right skills in a particular person, but actually we must look forward for the right mindset, because mindset cannot change and we cannot change them. So we must ensure that we should look forward for good mindset people rather than looking only for the good skills that are required for that particular post. Secondly, we think that we cannot find what we are not looking for. Actually, there might be star performers in your organization. You must look forward for those performers. You must identify their behaviors, their attitude, and then develop those interviews questions which will help you in finding the people who are actually behaving like your star performers. Then you will be able to identify the best people you are looking forward for your institution. The next one is the best way to evaluate people is to watch them work. You know, just mere having a discussion with the people will not give you a evaluation of that individual. You need to observe them through demonstration lessons. You must give them opportunity to work, because through the demonstration lessons, when you are hiring a teacher, then through demonstration lessons you are able to assess the skills of the teacher which you want to appoint. You can observe the teacher's style of functioning, his or her expertise in achieving the learning outcomes, and you can later on decide that whether the prospective teacher has the potential of a good teacher or not. And lastly, you cannot hire people who don't apply. Um Application, when you shortlist the candidates on the criteria of the application which they have submitted in the organization, it's the appearance of the application who itself plays an important role. A candidate who has not taken a care in completing the form properly or not has attached any important documentation, then it's likely to give a answer that the individual has less, you know, he's careless, and might be in lesson preparation or in the classroom transaction he might give the same responsibilities, whatever responsibilities you are given to that individual, he might overlook them. He might not take much care in them. So these are the four principles you must look forward when you are going for a smart hiring. First one is go for right mindset people. Second, find the star performers of your organization and accordingly frame the questions, the interview questions, and try to find people like them who will help in enhancing your organization. Third, try to evaluate the people by giving them to work or by giving them a demo of their lessons rather than on just giving an oral relying on the oral responses of that individual. And fourthly, you must take a critical note of all the applications that are being uh, submitted in your organization. You must take a complete care of having a complete the overview of the application that is submitted in your organization, because that frames a picture of that individual who has applied in the institution itself. Next is we must the various discuss on the various methods of selection. Possibly there are two methods of selection. The first one is interviews, and the second is personality test. We'll discuss each of them one by one. First is interviewing. Since we have shortlisted as an school head, um, we might have we shortlist certain people who have applicants who have applied for a particular post, and then we should try to arrange a time of the interview which should be facilitating to the applicant itself, because that will not interfere with their present jobs. We must have an approximate 40 minutes for an interview, and then afterwards, the panel members should have 20 minutes for the discussion regarding the impressions of the applicant before the next interview starts. So, approximately 40 minutes is an appropriate time. Next, this interview should be undertaken by a panel of two or three experts, because if the panel is too large, that might can intimidate the candidate. While if the panel is too small, then a single person will only be responsible for asking the questions. So it's better that the panel should be of two or three experts. While if the interview is being done at the school level, the panel should consist of the school head, the departmental head, and the representative of a parent committee, the parent teacher committee. And they must discuss beforehand the starting of the interview that who should be going to head the panel, and who will lead the panel in asking the questions, and should also give the other members of the panel an opportunity to ask the questions. Next is when we are interviewing, there are two purposes of interview. First is to confirm that whether the candidate who has been shortlisted is suitable for the post. And second, we need to find out who is the best among the all. We need to distinguish who is the best, who is the second best, and so on. We need to merit down the candidates. While we are when the applicant is shown for the interview, he must be introduced to all the panel members, and the head of the panel members should engage the interview briefly in a casual conversation, so that the candidate is much relaxed and he is now open for the interview process. uh, since question should always focus on the job in which for which the applicant is expected to perform, and the question should form of the posing the question should be of the routine task, or the problematic question should be posed, in which he or she should be asked whether how he would be able to deal with the problematic situations of the schools. As well as I'll give you one example, like you can say how you will deal with the people who fails to bring the written homework to school and says it has been done, but left the homework at school at home. And again, you can ask the similar question, that if the same pupil deals with the same problem, and you are dealing with the same pupil the second time, and he is not bringing the same written work, what you will do? So these are some problematic questions which you can ask the candidate. Next is what are the advantages and disadvantages of the interview method. While if we'll move on for the advantages, firstly, it's very useful for determining in that the applicant has a good and a requisite communicative and social skills, which might be necessary for the job. You can also get an supplementary information. You can also appraise candidates' verbal fluency. You can also assess the applicant job knowledge, and this method can be used for the selection among equally qualified applicants. And you know you This allows the applicant also to ask questions that may reveal additional information that is required for the interviewer to make a selection decision. And when we discuss about the disadvantages, the main disadvantage of this is that we can give a subjective evaluation. You know, and mostly what the decisions what we make about a candidates is made within the first few minutes of the interview, and afterwards we are giving a justification on our decisions also. And the interviewers may form a stereotype concerning the characteristics that are required for the success of the job. It depends, just because we are not fulfilling certain criteria, the interviewers, we have not informed them about the job requirements, the job roles and responsibilities of that particular job, will the skills will be required. Then if we have not informed the interviewers about it, then the interviewers might form a stereotype about the characteristics that are required, and that may vary from the various panel members. And this might not be reliable as the test might be, and there is no evidence of validity of the selection procedure, on what basis you are selecting it, so there is no valid proof of it. So these are certain disadvantages of this interview method. Now, there are certain tips how to minimize these stereotypes. As we have discussed earlier, that this is another disadvantage of the interview method. We can minimize this stereotype of the racial or the sexual stereotype in the interview process by giving the expert interviewers with a job description. As I have discussed earlier also, you can give the job description, the specification, the requirements for for that position. And when the interviewers will have an information about the job, they are likely to have lesser stereotypical judgment about the suitability of the candidates. And secondly is make the interview job related. Try to focus on interview questions which are job related. If the question posed are not related to job, then the validity of the interview procedure loses. You must try to focus on framing the questions which are related to job. Um we must avoid making quick decisions about an applicant. We must avoid giving too much weight to few characteristics. Try to put the applicant at ease during the interview. If he is at ease, he will be able to express himself more comfortably, and then you will be able to draw more out of him. Try to communicate clearly with the applicant resources. And we must also maintain a consistency in the questions which are asked, rather than asking from the classroom practices, then giving jumping to the interest of that candidate. So there should be a consistency in the questions which are being asked. We must avoid this. And at the end of the interview, the applicant should also be given an opportunity to ask questions, because that will help you in help you in getting a more view of that individual itself. You will be able to know him more. And then you should thank the individual for coming, and also tell him that the results of the interview will communicate it as soon as possible. While there are various types of interviews. One is the unstructured interview where there is no procedure and there are different questions. They may be asked to different applicants. So there is no fixed questions or fixed beforehand. The interviewers, they ask the questions to the applicants, as there is no structured procedure followed. The second one is situational interviews. In this, the candidates are interviewed about what actions they will take in the various job related situation. You give a situation to that candidate and what he will be doing it, then you will be scored using a scoring guide. You know, you will have some probable answers to it, and if the candidate is giving the related answers according to what you have pre-decided, then you can score the candidate according to it. Then we have the behavior description interviews, mostly when we have some candidates who have prior job experiences. So you can ask them with what action they might have taken in the prior job situation, which are similar to the situation they might encounter on the job. And then you try to analyze the behavior, what they have done in their previous jobs. And then the interviews are also scored using a scoring guide. And then another kind of interview is comprehensive structured interviews. Here the candidates are asked questions to how they will handle the job related situation. It's a comprehensive. You are comprehensively asking questions on job knowledge, the student's requirement, the various job simulations, the various job related situations. So you are asking in a very comprehensive way. So this is the comprehensive structured interview. And the next one is oral interview boards. In all of the above, actually, we are following the oral interview boards. Here, the responses of the candidates are in oral form. Whatever the job related questions are being asked by the panel of interviewers, the candidate is just giving the oral responses. And every member of the panel then rates the interviews on the various dimensions, as his work experiences, his work history, his motivation, his creative thinking, and presentation. So basically, in this, the um, each individual, the panel member has a subjective scoring. Might be having a subjective scoring because it might relate to the subject personal biases of the individual who are sitting on the board. So usually these kind of techniques are not feasible for the jobs in where a large number of applicants are to be interviewed. The next one, and an important one, is performance based interview. Basically, performance based interviews are more specific to your vacancies, the school problems, the school culture. Here, you are actually asking them to perform. You are actually asking them to give a demonstration lesson in front of you. You will be able to know the candidate's strengths, the weaknesses, the and you will be able to justify the personal or the cultural fitness of that candidate, if you are preferring the applicant on this manner. So basically, performances based interviews are similar, but they are more superior to the structured interviews. Because in the performance based interviews, we are also framing the similar kind of questions, and we have already framed the same set of questions. And in the we if we scale them according to the scores as suggested by the responses. But here the performances based interviews are superior, than the structured interviews, because we are evaluating the applicants on the work responses, is how they are doing the work, how they are responding to the work, how they are responding to the problem situation, and how they are doing the problematic, how they are solving the problematic situation, rather than just giving an answer to it. Moreover, they are actually performing the critical components of the job. You can identify the individuals who can work and how who can solve the problems. And you can in the oral types of interviews or in the structured interviews, the responses which the interviewee gives is in oral form. You're not seeing whether that individual is actually capable of performing it. So here the applicants actually perform the critical components of the job. Moreover, the performance-based interviews also enjoy a long shelf life, because you are when it comes to the oral interviews, mostly in the structured interviews, you are giving the same set of questions, you are asking the same set of questions to the interviews. The applicants, they might be memorizing the suggested answers also, and they are giving you the responses as they have memorized. But in a performance based interviews, you are not actually looking for the memorized answers, you are giving them the opportunity to perform in front of you. You are giving an opportunity to the applicants to actually give a demonstration lesson in front of you, so you are able to shortlist those candidates who can successfully answer all the questions, and also who can truly perform all the aspects of the actual job. So now we will talk about the second shortlisting criteria. The second one is the personality test. Although it's not always used in isolation, you need to use it along with the interview. Here, what this tool helps us in the assessment of the personality of the prospective teacher, or the any other employee of the organization or of the school. You have the various personality dimensions like the extroversion, the emotional stability, agreeableness, conscientiousness, the openness to experiences, the experimentation nature, the experimentative nature. So you need to test those the personality dimensions through the personality test. uh, some tips for the personality test are: you need to select the traits carefully, because when we are talking about assertiveness or independence or self confidence, we might end in excluding the females, because these are found more significantly more in the males. So it might give you an adverse impact. So you need to select the traits carefully, which you are assessing in the personality test. You need to select the test also carefully, because any may some test may be analyzed for high reliability, but they might be having a low adverse impact. uh, you need to select that are not used exclusively, because only relying on the personality test for the selection of a candidate for a particular job is not suggestive, because you need to rely on other procedures also, and you need to add personality test as a criteria for the selection along with the other criterias for the selection of the candidate appropriate for the tests. Now we'll talk about the next part. The third one is the appointment. While when we have selected we have gone for the selection procedure through the personality test and through the panel interviews, we can communicate also with the past employers regarding the individual behaviors, reliability, their personal adjustment, their integrity. So a biographical inventory is prepared. You write down the responses of the questionnaires, the interviews, the personality test, the communication with the past employers. Then along with it, we ask a candidate to write a future autobiography where he would state what he would be doing in the next 5 years. So this frames the autobiography of the individual. Now, after the interviews, and then which is the best candidate. The process of appointing the best candidate should be as brief. The best candidate whom you have selected should be contacted soon, and he should be told that he has been nominated for the position, and you should ask him that if he or she is likely to accept it or not, because it might be often it happens that the candidate or the applicant has been shortlisted for two or three posts, and he might not prefer the one which you are offering him. So you must know, and you must ask the candidate whether he or she is likely to accept it or not. Uh, Finally, you must go forward for the finalization of the appointment. While in the government services itself, the chief executive officer of the Ministry of Education is normally having the final responsibility for the selection and appointment. This has been delegated to the other officials, the appropriate officials, who might not be same for all the level of post. For the primary school positions, there might be another appropriate official. For the secondary level position, there might be another official. So the authority has been delegated to different officials. For a temporary post, this which we have discussed, that might be for the permanent position, but for the temporary post, the school head himself might be having the responsibility and the authority of appointing the individual. So he might finalize the appointment procedure also. And if the power to finalize the appointment does not rest with the interviewing committee, and all the documentation regarding the finalization has and the recommendation has to be forwarded to the responsible official um, as speedily as possible, because if there is an undue delay, then the head of the interviewing committee should follow up, because you might lose a good candidate um, for another post. So for getting a good individual for your post, you must act on speedily for finalizing the appointment procedures. And after, when the successful applicant should also receive a oral confirmation of the appointment, as we have discussed earlier, and it should be followed by a formal letter of appointment with a clear job description. And the candidate should also sign the forms of the acceptance to the post, and should also give a confirmation regarding his joining to the post. So these were all regarding the unit 3. So if you have any queries, you might ask them, or otherwise we'll proceed to the next one. I'll wait for another 1 or 2 minutes. If you have any query, you might raise, the candidates. The students might raise their queries. I think you have no queries on Unit 3. I'm proceeding on the Unit 4 now. Unit 4 is induction, the work distribution, and retention. So, the points which we will be discussing in Unit 4 is regarding induction, getting the right orientation, the orientation checklist for the head teachers, the work distribution, the retention through performance management. In the induction itself, we will be discussing on the general principles of getting the orientation right. We'll discuss on organizing an induction training program, the characteristics of a good orientation program, the goals of orientation program. While in the work distribution, we will be discussing on the delegation, which is a new approach to work distribution. And in the retention through performance management, we will be discussing on the collaboration versus supervision. So let's proceed. So induction. So basically, this is the first and foremost thing which we get an induction whenever there is a new appointment, or you have got a new induction when you were enrolled for this course. You get an orientation right about it. So, what is exactly induction is all about? The retention of the staff is another challenging area for the head teachers. And it depends on the level of motivation that prevail among the staff. The challenges which the schools face is how to retain and how to then pass the wealth of experiences of the teachers, of the knowledge they have gained so far, and the skills of the experienced teachers to those teachers who are new to the teaching profession. For this, an induction program will support schools to meet this challenge. While when we are looking forward for an effective induction program, it is important for not only for the teachers but also for the students whose futures they shape, for the teachers themselves, for the school in which they will be teaching. So, and also for the parents and communities. Basically, this is induction program is actually beneficial for all the stakeholders of the education, um, uh, and the students themselves, the teachers, the school, the parents, and the community as a whole. While when we talk about the induction, it is the process which will help you to help a new staff member, whosoever has been appointed in your organization and is he or she is new to your organization. This induction program will help him to fit into the job, to work as a team, and to work in the organization as smoothly as possible. So, when we discuss about the general principles of the induction program, we must ensure that we must treat each new employee as an individual. The induction should be tailored to orient individual recruits because each individual has a specific professional need. You might have appointed a fresh graduate. So his professional need is quite different if you'll compare it to an experienced teacher. So we must cater to the needs. We must finalize the induction program according to the individual requirement, the individual recruit's need. Secondly, the departmental boss or the supervisor should be involved in the program. Uh, an important aspect is you should allocate a buddy on the same working level as the new hire of the same age group, maybe a positive person for this role. That buddy will help the individual, the new hire, and will provide him the informal learning about the unwritten rules of behavior, the location of important services like the canteen, the staff room, the library, and all kinds of how tos and which an experienced staff members knows, but it is not new to, but it is not familiar to a newcomer. So that buddy will help the individual, the newcomer in the informal learning. So this should be planned in the induction process itself. Next is pace the induction process. You need not do everything on the first morning. The induction process, it proceeds gradually, and with proper feedback and remedial measures, you continue for the improvement also. So you need to pace the induction process. Next, you need to give the new recruit, a real job. Because if he's only watching and only listening to others, he will feel himself as a spare part. You must try to give him a real job experience as soon as possible. Next is you must use accelerated or brain friendly learning techniques. He should not be a passive listener to everything. You should indulge in all the learning techniques who are brain friendly, brainstorming, and should keep the individual active rather than merely sitting as in a passive mode. Now, how to organize an induction training program? Um we There are two sessions. The first one is the introductory course session, where you will discuss about the school's vision, the mission, the goals, and the organizational structure. Secondly, you will discuss about the school policies. Yeah, you will include the code of conduct, the say work health, the safety norms, the emergencies, the security of the students, and also the HR information, the including the superannuations. So these are all provided in the introductory course session. Secondly, there are certain tailored workshop sessions. There are fragmented sections also. One might be for the learning priorities and the framework. You need to give him opportunities of identifying places to find further information also. You have tailored workshop sessions regarding the technology, which is related to the infrastructure, the support available for teaching and learning, and also the other staff development opportunities associated with its use. Uh, Next is the professional development programs, which will include the in service training programs and the processes within the school. Um, might have another session, the workshop session on the finance, the intranet availability, the emails, the school diary, the web, the library, and the other resources. You might also have a workshop session on self-development initiative regarding the researches which the candidate might undertake during the teaching learning process or in the school itself. So there are variety of channels that can be used in the induction processes. That includes the printed materials like the school prospectus, the diary, the magazines, the newsletters, the induction websites itself, the employee handbook, and induction companion program, the induction training event. So there are variety of channels which can be used during both the sessions, the introductory sessions or the tailored workshop sessions. So now we'll proceed for a good orientation program. There are certain characteristics which we need to identify. There must be a targeted goals, and we must try to reach each of the goal which has been targeted beforehand. Secondly, the orientation program should be done by a senior faculty, an experienced one, who is there to answer the queries of the candidates. The orientation program is not a one-day program. It's an ongoing process. It begins before the first day because you need to you need to do a lot of preparation for the orientation program, and it already begins before the first day of the recruit. You must try to make the first day a celebration for the recruit and for the whole staff, because a new individual is actually adding up into the family of your organization. Next is, it makes the staff active and productive on the first day, because everybody is in a celebration mood, everybody is there in an active mood. So that results into a productive session of the first day. It should not be boring. It should not be rushed. It should not be ineffective. It should be global. It should be multilingual and diverse. You must use various languages for making the candidate comfortable enough. You must have a one size fits one strategy to allow for individual and also the local needs. Uh, Next is, it should be available on the internet facilities, and you must make use of the technology that is provided by the organization itself. It also aims at reducing the turnover. It should be monitored, it should be measured, and it should also be rewarded. And it also provides, basically the orientation program itself is a feedback for the continuous improvement of the organization itself, of the individual itself, of the recruit itself. So it provides a feedback also for the improvement of the organization. Next is, what are the various goals of orientation program? When we discuss the various goals of the orientation program, first is welcome and celebrate a new hire. Whosoever is, has joined your institution on the very first day, you should try to follow the celebration tools. And what are the celebration tools? Basically, these tools help in raising the enthusiasm of the new hire. What we can do as a school head, we can give a phone call, uh, as a welcome call to the new recruit. We can also give an invitation to the new recruit to visit our office on the very first day, or we might stop at their workplace and welcome them over there. You can also give a letter, to as a welcome letter to the recruit at the school. You can, obviously, if you have much of your budget, you can organize a new hire lunch on the first day to meet all the members of the staff. You can also place a welcome note or a picture on your school newsletter, magazine, or website, anywhere you can place. You can use the notice board for it. So, these are basically for raising the enthusiasm of the new person, new hire in your school. Next is, what we can do is we should anticipate and answer all the questions. Like a person who has joined your institution is not familiar with your institution, so we must give him the access to the literature about the school, about the newsletters. You might give him the access about the magazine, so that they should learn about the school before they start. They will be able to identify questions specific to their particular roles, and you will be able to identify questions specific to their roles before the interviews and discussions. And next is, you can speed time to effective performances. You need to give the new hires a copy of the school's mission, the vision statement, and a school short term plan also before the first day. You can also assign a departmental mentor, uh, who will assist the new hire during the first month. He will, whatever answers, whatever queries he might have, he might be able to get the answers from that mentor. So you need to assign a departmental mentor to him, because mentoring is all about helping and guiding the colleagues through their roles of the jobs in the organization, familiarizing the new hire with the system, the process, and also helping him, empowering him to go on independently. Thirdly, what you can do is you can also do a survey of the past hires and identify their needs, what their problems were, the strengths were, so that you will be able to have a less of the the problems. uh, and these will be done in the orientation itself, because uh, when if a poor orientation is there, the candidates, the new hires are all in a confused state. State. For that, you require that their problems, the strength, the frustrations, and whatever they have, they should be resolved. It's only possible when you do a survey of your past new hires and also identify their needs. So after identification of the needs, you can make efforts in fulfilling their needs, requirements, and what their problems are. And lastly, when we talk about, we must try to develop tools to make new members as a part of school team. How that is done, as a school head teacher, you should give a presentation of in the orientation session itself, regarding how important the new hires are, how important the new recruit is to the organization. Try to develop a individual challenge plan for for the first 3 months maybe, because when the individual will have challenges in their job, then only they will be able to continuously grow. They will be able to continuously have queries. They will be able to have problematic situation. They will fall into problematic situation, and then they will able to, you will give them opportunity of those problematic situation, and then they will able to make utilize of their skills and abilities to overcome such problems. You should also develop and growth and development plans, because it's your responsibility to ensure that they are also developing. They're not only continuously challenged, but also they are given opportunities for self development at an acceptable rate. So these are the four goals of the orientation programs. The first one is to welcome and celebrate a new hire. The second is to anticipate and answer the questions. The third is to speeding the time for effective performances. And fourth is to try to make tools to make new members at a part of school team. And there, as a tool, you can use the orientation presentation. As a tool, you can develop a challenge plan. As a tool, you can also look forward for growth and development plan for the individual itself. Now we will discuss about the orientation checklist for head teachers. uh, since this is the checklist for the orientation program, I said the orientation program is not only for the first day, but it is on a continuous basis. It is continuing. So we for the first day there are various checklists. The first one, because a new teacher is very anxious about teaching. All right, then you should try to create a comfortable environment. And on the first day, what can you do? You should give a warm welcome to that individual, to the new hire. You can tour the teacher and other staff assigned workplace. You should tell him where the class is, where the staff room is. You should also explain where the library, the cafeteria, the staff rooms are located. You should try, if he is given the responsibility of certain rooms, if he is appointed as a uh, science teacher. He has the responsibility of the laboratory also. So you should make arrangements to him to provide him the required keys also. You should introduce the new teacher to other staff members and also to the students. You should also review the job description of the school teacher. You should tell him, you should review what the job responsibilities and requirements are. You should review the school organizational chart and explain that relationship to the teacher, how the school functions, and to whom the teacher is accountable to whom he's to who is the ultimate authority, to whom he is accountable, to whom he is answerable to. So you need to give a review about the school organizational chart, and also try to explain the relationship to the teacher. If the teacher has a coordinator of the department, or if the teacher has a departmental head, so you should be able to tell the school organizational chart and discuss with the candidate accordingly. And also, you should also review your school's policies and procedures, which includes the working hours. You should tell him that what the working hours are, what facilities the school is providing regarding the phone, the email, and the internet use. What office supplies you will be getting, the office organization, like you will be getting files, the other supplies, the office resources also. You should have the directories, the dictionaries, the style manuals, and everything. The staff meeting, you should also tell him about the staff meetings, the accountability, whom he or she is accountable to, what are the codes of conduct, what are the attitudes, etc. And also the priorities, what are the priorities regarding teaching learning, regarding the student performances, the behavior, the confidentiality of the reports, and all everything regarding this should be done on the very first day of the job. Next, during the first week, what you can do is you need to review the teacher's work area or the cubicle which you have provided to the teacher, to ensure that everything, every infrastructure, what is required, should be in place and also in order. And secondly, what you do is you should schedule a meeting with the person attached to section to it, so that you should be able to know the complete required paperwork, whatever the joining formalities are, if they have been done properly. You should review the personal policies and procedures regarding the benefits the candidate will be receiving in his job, like the provident fund, the housing facilities, the health, and the others benefits which he will be getting. You should also review the the leave policies, whether the vacation leave or the sick leave or the personal leaves, and also try to obtain a school identity card for that individual. Like this has to be done within the first week. Now, within the first month of joining, you should meet the member just to review the job description, whether he is performing the role responsibilities in a proper manner or not, the teaching and the performance standards, the work rules. So that should be discussed and reviewed with the individual. And lastly, when within the 6 months of the starting, you can revisit the performance standards and work rules, and also schedule the performance appraisal meeting. So, this is the orientation checklist for head teachers. As we have discussed earlier, that the orientation um is not for the first day, but it should. It is a continuous process, and it should be done on the throughout the session for the new recruit. Now we will talk about the work distribution. All right. Uh, Work distribution, since we have role based distribution of work in schools, whatever the job description tells you about the job responsibilities and roles, accordingly the work is distributed to the faculty. But we are usually facing with several problems. problems, like we have less teachers. Teachers are not appointed. We have unavailability of teachers just because the teacher is on vacation, or due to illness he is absent, or might be the teacher is overloaded with other duties also. So as a result, what we do is we allocate the work to a few people, or to many people, or even to a wrong set of people. So in the current practice, what we do is we offer a work or an item to one person. So when the person is not there, then it's very difficult to give the responsibility to another person. Or what we do is we give the responsibility to two, or two more than two people. So we are actually not thinking about the qualifications and preferences of the people themselves, and we are not seeing the responsibilities of the people. So basically, what we do is we go for selectivity, because either the work is being offered to many people, or to few people, or to the wrong people. Secondly, we have certain advanced constraint also. Like, if the work is allotted to a science teacher and the science teacher is on leave, a biology teacher is on leave, then there are advanced constraint, like that work will need to be done by a science teacher himself, and that too of the same department. Might be done by a physics or a chemistry teacher. So the other teachers, they don't they don't come forward for taking the responsibilities as such, or the head teacher is also not giving the responsibility, because the role and responsibility is all only on the science teacher. While it might be context dependent constraint also, because since some people are not given the responsibilities because they have not completed the 50% of their curriculum by the midterm. So if we will give them more responsibilities, they will not be able to complete the curriculum in time. So that is context dependent constraint. So these are certain constraints which are actually, you know which are there in the work distribution, and it is actually faced, these problems are actually faced by the head teacher, because he is in a position where he is facing such advanced constraint or the context dependent constraint, and also for the selection of the work also he is facing certain problems. So for this, what is required is delegation, because when the work is distributed, now a new approach to work distribution, since we have discussed about the various constraints of work distribution, this new approach is a key to the all key to solving the all the problems of the work distribution. The key to solving the problems is delegation. So what exactly is delegation? What is being delegated? It's the resource, it's the task itself. The resource is the individual, the teacher, or the individual on whom the responsibility is given and trusted. The second is the task. What responsibility is being delegated? And the third is the role. What has to be done in the task? That is being delegated. And the fourth is work item. What work has to be done? What needed is to be fulfilled is being delegated. So basically, these four are delegated: the resource himself, the task, the role, what he is to fulfill to work for the item. So basically, why is delegation triggered? Why it is important? Why it is required? It's just because we have unavailability of a resource. It might be due to planned absence. Maybe the teacher is on a vacation, or he might be on an official training. So there is a planned absence. There might be unplanned absence. Maybe he's due to illness. He's not able to attend the college itself. So, or might be the teacher is overloaded because he's too busy to do that job. Then the job is delegated to somebody else. And why it is done? Because there is urgency of the work done, and maybe there might be an approaching deadline, so you need to complete that work. So if the person on whom the responsibility is given, he is not there, then that work is delegated to somebody else. And secondly, as a head teacher, you have seen that there is non-performance, there is lack of responsiveness of a teacher. He might be unwilling to do the job. You are unsatisfactory with the work whom it is delegated. Then it is required. The work delegation is required. You have specific resources. You have different roles to play. So this delegation is triggered mainly due to these reasons. So, what is the time period to which the delegation pertains? What is the time period? Why, to whom, when you are shifting the work responsibility from one individual to another individual, for what time you require that delegation? Maybe it might be for an instant of time, uh, whosoever is present, and for what reason the work is to be done at that specific time, you might require them. Secondly, for a calendar time period, if the individual has gone for a planned absence, then you can go for a calendar time period. Maybe the vacancy is not fulfilled, then you have to delegate the work. Maybe the individual has gone for a vacation or a business trip or a illness period, then for that duration you have to delegate the responsibilities. Anyways, you have well defined time period, like you must give them the weekends or the Tuesdays. So you need to tell the individuals at what time period they need to fulfill the responsibility of delegation. Now, there are various attributes that form the basis for allocating work. First is suitability. Like every individual has certain generic roles to perform, and you have shortlisted the candidates using the scoring cards or from the objective test which you have undertaken during the shortlisting process, or might be from the interview process itself. So you know that which candidate might be suitable for that particular task. Secondly, you have seen that there is an urgency also. Urgency parameter is also influenced, like there is a deadline, there is priority of a work item. Might be there might be examination that are approaching within few days, and there might be an annual day function. So there is an urgency of that work. So for that also you need to allocate the work. Third is conformance. When you have the measure of the level of agreement with the constraint. You know, we have discussed about the various constraint, and you know that uh, uh, a high level reflects good conformance, and if there is a low level, that means you are violating the constraints. So conformation also plays an important role. Next is availability. The availability parameter also, it measures the overall availability taken into account, the time available to a teacher. The teacher during a planning period, you need to see the workload of a teacher. You need to see the planned absences of the teacher. So the exact value also depends on the availability. If you know that a certain teacher is suitable for the allocation of that job, but that teacher is very overloaded, that teacher is not available for fulfilling the job requirements. So you need to certainly see these four attributes which form the basis for allocating the work. Now next is we'll discuss about the sample plan for the substitution. Uh, Substitution, usually we have the substitution periods, we have the substitution plans in these schools, because substitution helps in managing the work distribution for the effective functioning of the school itself. Because through substitution we are trying to maintain a fine balance between quality and mere scheduling, because we need to see that not you are not sending a teacher to the class. If a teacher is absent, substitution is not only there for sending another teacher in the class and making him or her sit in the class, but you need to ensure that a quality period is given to the student through the schedule. So in this, a timetable is a systematic way of performing the work distribution. And when the schedule is disturbed, when there are planned or unplanned absences, we look forward for the substitution. So there is a we are discussing the sample plan for substitution. Substitution should be linked to a teacher who belongs to a similar group of subjects. Likewise, if a science teacher is absent, a biological teacher, a chemistry teacher is absent, then you need to substitute the class. If you need to make the class arrangement with another science teacher who might be a chemistry teacher or a physics teacher, or the teacher, a science teacher who is present at that time. So a similar group of subjects, you need to identify the teachers of the similar group of subjects. Then that same teacher should be sent for the substitution in the class for the entire all the days, the uh, all the schedules. Like whenever the teacher is going for a short term leave, then she should prepare a worksheet for all the days she will be remaining absent, and also for all the classes. Like for example, if some teacher takes mathematics and science in class ninth A and B, and she is planning to go for a leave, that too a planned, that is for a planned schedule. So for that, um, she is teaching a new concept in both the subjects, so she should prepare a worksheet and set day wise in the maths and science. The principal should identify the teachers to take substitution of maths and science. That means for the maths and science classes, you require a teacher of mathematics and science itself. All right. If the teacher is teaching maths and science, then there in the substitution duties, if she has prepared worksheets for day wise for the maths and science classes, you should identify teacher who will be able to teach the maths and science in those respective classes. And then you can hand the device worksheets that are clipped together, and the substitution then teacher will be able to help the students in doing the worksheets done. uh, and they can check the work done by interchanging the notebooks, get the children check the answers, and then the substitution teacher can also call out the answers, and the students themselves, they can interchangeably check the notebooks. um, if one teacher is not able to take all the maths periods in ninth A or B, it's the responsibility of the principal to split the substitution between two teachers, and can provide the worksheets to all the teachers who are substituting in the class. And then if even if the substitution is absent, teacher is absent, then the class monitor can take the task on the board. All right. And if the two teachers are cannot be available for 6 days, the sections can be combined. If there are no teachers, then both the sections can be combined, and students are made to sit together in the in any a big class or the assembly hall to complete the task. So this is how you can plan for a substitution. There should be clearly statement of who is responsible for the task sheets, who's responsible for the answer scripts, who where the answer scripts and the task sheets should be placed every day. So this should be planned previously by the teacher who is going for a leave, for a longer duration leave, so that there is a quality work done in absence of her. Although she is absent during the entire time, for a week or for a month or so, but her her teaching takes place in a very productive way. Now we will look about managing for substitution. How we can manage. See, your timetable should clearly state which teachers are free in each period, and most or few of the teacher might be free in the first period. Then they should be immediately sent to the unattended classroom in the first period. Then afterwards, the substitution duties should be allocated when it is an unplanned holiday by the teacher due to illness or anything. So for the first period you can send anyone, but after that you should go for the substitution duties. The duties should be evenly distributed among all class teachers, and every month the number of substitution classes taken by each teacher should be put up in the staff notice, because uh, that would help the teachers, the staff to also see the work is distributed evenly. And the substitution duty register should also indicate where the children would sit. If you are planning that more teachers are absent on certain days, you should take a combined class of two or more classes in the assembly hall or any other place where they could fit properly. So that substitution duty register should also indicate where the children would be sitting, so that they will not create a fuss around in the school campus. All right. Now we will talk about the retention through performance management. Uh, this retention is the process of identifying and also evaluating and developing the work performances of all the staff members, so that the organizational goals are more effectively achieved. Uh, at the same time, the staff is also benefited in terms of feedback, the recognition, the staff development, and other interests are also sustained. And we are looking forward in achieving a dynamic set of organizational goals. So basically, retention is foremost required in an organization. See, an effective performance management system takes into account the various interconnected areas. The first one is um the establishment of clear roles and expectation. Since we have already discussed that it's the needs identification is an ongoing process in the organizations, and because these organizations are continuously shifting, and they need to these organizations should have clear roles and expectations. Next is we must encourage high level of motivation among the members. um, it depends on the basic factors. The staff is motivated to work better with a good pay package, leave structure, the benefits, and the physical work environment which they have in the organization itself. So these should be taken care of. If these are not being taken care of, then there is little performance to manage. Next is monitoring function. It is important because in the traditional organization, it was done through classroom inspections by supervisors. But mm, uh, these supervisors may or may not have an intimate working knowledge of the classes being inspected, uh, and thus they tend to be very judgmental in nature, and they give us lots of direction, but they lack real assistance for the teacher trying to think through problems for their own growth. So, third is monitoring function that should not be monitoring, but it should be a collaborative function itself. Next is ensuring the development of a collaborative system. As we have discussed, that the monitoring function only provides us directions, but there is little assistance that is provided to the teacher during the monitoring function. So we must ensure that the development can only take place in a collaborative system. You know, when in an organization, if an individual, if the employee plays a participatory role, whether in the goal setting or in the development practices of the organization, then their job performances and their job satisfaction and the achievement of the organizational goals and the individual goals are more likely and more better rather than in a monetary function, since and the individual, each staff member has a performances gap. For that, he requires a collaborative system who would look forward for fulfilling those performances gap, guiding him, helping him, ensuring that he is given guidance through a training program or the counseling sessions, or so we require that the whole organization could only develop if we will go for a collaborative system. Now next is uh, we'll discuss about the collaboration versus supervision. Firstly, in supervision, we have a role conflict of a helper and a judge, because helping is when we are supporting an individual um, to take risk, which is very much critical and which is very much required in his learning process. But when we are in the role of a judge, we are actually discouraging the learner to take risk. Um when we are supervising, we are actually evaluating the individual. And when we are evaluating the individual, the learners or the individuals will only put their best foot forward, and they will only try to demonstrate what has been tried and tested and which are being verified. So we are actually we are actually uh, giving a hindrance to their new learning. They will not take the risk for new learning. They will discourage you will discourage the learner to take the risk for new learning. And when we are talking about collaboration system of coaching and mentoring is basically focused on the growth of individual. you know uh, Here we are giving him an opportunity, we are supporting the individual to experiment and also to analyze his performance. Here the evaluative function is kept aside. you know um, uh, in its place, in the place of evaluative function, we are actually replacing it with performance appraisal. Performance appraisal is a collaborative system of coaching and mentoring, which is basically focused on the growth of the individual or on the growth of the employee itself. So what is basically performance appraisal? This is performance appraisal is a way of evaluating the contribution of the individuals to organizational goals, and its purpose is twofolded. The first one, it enables us to see at an organizational level. We at an organizational level, we are able to identify the performances gaps, and we know the kind of training and development that are required by the employees to fulfill the performances gap, so that they can actually enhance their performances, and that will help in the development of the organization as a whole. And also secondly, it also recognizes the individual performances. It helps and encourages the setting and pursuit of individual goals. It a critical element in maintaining the high levels of motivation, because the individual will be highly motivated for the achievement of the organizational vision. He knows where he is lacking. He knows his need requirement. He knows his training requirement, and he knows his individual goals. He is encouraged to set his individual goals, and also he is encouraged to put his foot forward in pursuit of this individual goals, and that is only through the performance appraisal. Now, when we talk about performance appraisal, the first principle of performance appraisal is openness. Since it's performance appraisal, in many minds, we have the images of the confidential reports, which are written by the head teachers, and they are written quietly and filed away. Well, this practice was actually where we have the controlled oriented organization. But when we are talking about a democratic organization, in today's context, when we are looking forward for development and empowerment, these secret reports do not make for improvement. They should be open for the employee himself. Now, secondly, the frequency of the individual performance appraisal depends on both the school needs and those of the individual. You know, since at an individual level, if the individual is a newcomer, he is less mature, he is less experienced, then that appraisal should be on a frequent basis. But if the individuals or the employees are experienced, then that appraisal can be held at least once a year and place it on the records. So that document of performance appraisal, it serves as a career progression. You need it for planning at the senior levels, and also in the worst scenario, it also serves as an evidence for disciplinary measures for the errant employees. And as importantly, as we have already noted, you need to focus on the kind of training and development what is required by your individual, uh, by the individual employees. For fulfilling the performance gaps, you need to give them the trainings and provide them the development programs. And now, next, as discussed earlier, it's for the training and development. You need your company, your institution will grow only when the people are learning and growing and being acknowledged and are given their the best. Then they will be able to give their best. But if they are not provided the opportunities, if they are denied with the opportunities of trainings, the developmental programs, then the employees will get frustrated, they will become negative, and thus they will lead to become the liabilities and to an organization over a certain period of time. They will not be an asset, um, but they will turn to be a liability to the organization itself. Next is to provide an adequate room for growth and organizational structure, and the organizational budgets need to reflect provision of training resources. Thus, for the growth and of the organization itself, we need to have a budget allocation for the training itself. Next, organization capacity to respond to changing environment depends on the effectiveness of its training and development processes. How the organization will respond to a changing environment, how the organization vision determines the broad direction of such processes, and that depends wholly on the training and development process. And the exact nature of training can take in various forms. It depends on employee to employee, it depends on employee requirement, and participatory decision making is effective in all areas of performance management. In the organization itself, if we want that the members should be committed for continuous improvement, and they should look forward for the improvement in the organization and also in themselves, there should be provision in the organization for the people to participate at all levels of goal setting. Then the possibility of commitment is enhanced. So because they have a clear role vision, they have a clear role expectation, they have a clarity to what training requirements they have for fulfilling their roles. Now next, I'll ask regarding any queries on, I ask the participants whether they have any queries on unit 4. If they have certain queries, they may ask the questions right now.
Well done. It's a nice presentation. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Muniba. If there is any query, you can ask.
No query from my end.
All right. So there are no queries. I hope the regional center Dehradun is listening.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. I'm ending the session for today. Thank
Okay,
you.
okay.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
the participants. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am, so much.
Thank you.